Welcome to the Graduate Job Podcast, your home for weekly information and inspiration to help you get the graduate job of your dreams.
Hello and welcome to the Graduate Job Podcast with your host, James Curran. The Graduate Job Podcast is your home for all things related to helping you on your journey to find that amazing job. Each episode I bring together the best minds in the industry, speaking to leading authors, graduate recruiters and career coaches who bring decades of experience into a bite-sized weekly 30-minute-ish show. Put simply, this is a show I wish I had when I graduated. Hello and welcome to the 92nd episode of the Graduate Job Podcast. Today's episode comes via a listener question from Jay, who got in touch by emailing me at hello@graduatejobpodcast.com. Now, Jay emailed me with a cracking question, which was, when is the best time to apply for a graduate job? A seemingly simple question, but one that belies a lot of nuance, and also one we haven't covered on the show before. So today I thought we should delve into it in more detail and work through some of the pros and cons of when to apply for a graduate job. And more specifically, whether you should do it before you graduate in your final year of university, or if you should save it till after graduation. Now, there are pros and cons on each side, but let's see which one comes out on top. The show notes for today's episode, where you can download a full transcript and also check out all of the links, as I do mention quite a few other episodes, is graduatejobpodcast.com/when. Before we start, let me tell you about a brilliant course I'm working on, cunningly titled How to Get a Graduate Job. This course is packed chock full of decades of experience into one step-by-step guide of everything you need to do to get a graduate job. There are videos, guides, handouts, cheat sheets, example CVs, example covering letters, example answers to those annoying 200-word competency questions, help with telephone interviews, video interviews. Look, if you need to know it to get a graduate job, it's in my course. The course is going live in August, but to be the first to hear about it and get it at a never-to-be-repeated price with special bonuses, head to graduatejobpodcast.com/course and just simply leave me your email. Right, on with the show. So let's get back to Jay's question. Now, as a bit of background, he is about to enter his final year at university and he was wondering when to start applying for graduate jobs. Should he do it in his final year, or should he wait until after he has graduated? Now, there are several strands to this question, and the answer to each of them is, it depends. Don't worry, we'll go into it in more detail than that. But taking the first aspect of the actual specifics of literally when can you apply. Now, in the UK, if you're applying to well-known large firms, the type of firms that tend to be in the Times top 100 list of graduate employers, the type of firms that travel around and exhibit at your university careers fairs, then the majority of these firms, though not all of them, tend to stick to the milk round schedule, which is applications opening at the end of September, beginning of October, and then closing either at the end of the year or normally in January or February time. If you succeeded in getting one of these jobs, you tend to then start working the following summer. Now, if you're applying to one of these firms, the key to success for your application is to get it in as close to the opening date as possible. By getting it in as soon as they open, you ensure that they will read your application before they get swamped with thousands of other applicants. And it also ensures that you actually get it in while there is still jobs left. Graduate schemes have a habit of closing applications as soon as they've filled the spots, so don't wait to the last minute to get your application in, as you might find yourself too late. This happened last year with one of the clients I was coaching. Now, the firm said it was closing applications on the 31st of December, but then they must have got so many applications coming in through that they instead, at no notice, announced that it was closed on the 18th of December, leaving many people, including my client, high and dry. So do your research, find out when the schemes are closing, and make sure you get your application in well in advance. But there are large companies who recruit all year round. Check out episode 93, which is coming out next week, with FTSE 100 company DS Smith, who are still open for applications as this episode goes live today, and are open till the end of May 2020. It's the same as well for previous guests we've had on the show, such as Enterprise, Police Now, and also a slew of companies like Aldi, MI5, etc., etc. If the company does have applications year-round, then now is as good a time as any to get your application in. And you can time it to when it really suits you and when you've actually got capacity to do the application justice. More on that later. So, we've covered when you can literally apply to the scheme of your choice. Let's move on to whether you want to apply in your final year or wait until you have graduated. Because I think here there are some pros and cons with each method. So starting with the pros of waiting to apply for graduate jobs till you have graduated. As you will very quickly learn when you start applying for graduate jobs, you will find that applying to them well and to a high standard is a very time-consuming business. Applications aren't something you can bosh out in a couple of hours, and if you do, you probably won't be getting very far in the process. Researching the company takes time, tailoring the CV and covering letter so you're ticking off all of the things they're looking for certainly takes time. Completing online applications with lots of questions to answer definitely takes time. If you can wait till you've graduated and you're, say, working part-time or maybe not even working at all, you can focus a lot of energy and time to these applications. Don't forget, we aren't just talking about time spent in October initially applying. It's also continuous time through the process, time preparing for and then completing video interviews, face-to-face interviews, assessment centres, etc. Now, if you multiply these by several companies, and the time and energy commitment really starts to add up. One example, this last year I was working with a very talented graduate studying engineering at a top university and helping him apply for a year in industry. Now, he had great work experience, he had stellar academic results, but the problem was his course was just so busy and demanded so much of him that he just had really little time to put the required attention into the applications. So if you do find yourself in this situation, waiting till you graduate might be the best option, as you will have that time and breathing space and energy to put into the applications. An important point to consider is that university is really stressful, and this is especially true in the final year. Adding the stress of trying to apply to graduate jobs whilst also juggling important coursework and dissertations which are going to count for your final grades is maybe adding just too much into the mix. Do you really want to be taking hours out for interviews and days out to go to assessment centres when you're knee-deep in the middle of your final year dissertation? Now, maybe for people studying art history or English, where you've got 2 hours of lectures a week and no final exams, this won't be an issue. But I know for lots of people it's tough to juggle and can be putting undue stress and pressure on yourself when you already have a lot on your plate. Another reason to wait till after graduation before applying for jobs is that maybe you're not in a rush to get into corporate life. Personally speaking, after 4 years of university, the last thing I wanted to do was rush into getting a graduate job and start working full-time only 2 months after finishing my exams. I wanted some time out. I wanted to go travelling and to see the world after 4 years at uni, which is why I headed out to China and spent a year teaching English, which was amazing fun and also really good for my CV. So another advantage of waiting till after graduation before applying is that you can have some breathing space post-university and an opportunity for freedom. The other advantage of waiting till you graduate before applying for jobs is that you can concentrate all of your focus on getting great grades, or that golden 2-1, which is required to open the door to most of the big graduate schemes. Also, you can actually enjoy the benefits of university, which are just so fleeting, such as having all your friends in one place and being able to see them at the drop of a hat. And also, brilliant networking opportunities from all the different university societies at your disposal. Once you graduate and your friends scatter back to their hometowns and settle down, seeing them becomes such a logistical task. There will always be jobs for you to apply to later, but you're never going to get your time back at university. And finally, instead of applying for jobs, you can use your time at university to build up your CV with impressive things which are going to impress recruiters, such as being involved in running university societies, writing relevant dissertations, volunteering, teaching, exciting travel, etc., etc. Make sure you don't come out of uni with nothing but a degree and a scary amount of student loan debt. So we have run through some of the pros of waiting till after graduation before applying for graduate jobs. Now let's look at some of the cons. The first one for me is that you've missed an opportunity to practice your application skills and to find out what to expect through the process. Companies only let you apply once each year, so if you miss a chance to apply, it's a 1-year wait before you can have another go. Let's say that you are focused and that you know that you really want to apply to company X. If so, you could apply to them in your final year and almost treat it as a dry run. If you get it, amazing, job done. If not, you've not wasted too much time only applying to one company, and you're going to learn so much as you go through the process. You will see the types of questions that are asked at each stage, what is expected of you. You can see areas for improvement so you can come back stronger next year. I see this with the clients I coach. There can be a sense of graduates underestimating the difficulty and also the required standard that companies are looking for with applications. And having a practice application run in your final year could help to reset your expectations. In my experience, graduates massively underestimate things like how much effort they need to put into company research, practicing online tests, and the overall amount of time they need to be putting into applications. Check out episode 84, where I talk through 4 things you need to be doing before you start applying for graduate schemes. This sometimes misplaced confidence can be quickly reset by applying in your final year. If you don't get past the first or second rounds, then you know there are areas you need to work on. In which case, give me an email, I'll happily help. Or check out my course on how to get a graduate job. Either way, you will learn a huge amount with an application at this stage. Just make sure, though, it's not at the expense of your grades or your mental health. Another pro of applying at this stage before you've graduated is that you can be optimistic about the grades you're going to get. For example, if you know that in all likelihood getting a 2.2 is probably realistic, you can tell companies on your application that you're going to get a 2.1. Now this is important as lots of firms have getting a 2.1 as a minimum bar to application. If you wow them through the application process and they offer you a job, they'll still give you the proviso that you need to get a 2.1. And if you do get a 2.2, then it's an easier conversation for why they should still hire you. You could play up mitigating circumstances over the exam period. You could tell them you were ill, grandma was ill, the dog was ill, etc., etc. Now, some companies will just rescind the offer, but at least you can argue your case, and they might not. Conversely though, if you did get a 2.2 and applied after graduation for a company specifying a minimum of a 2.1, you won't even get the chance to have a conversation, as you will be screened out immediately at the first stage. Now, if you're worried about getting a 2.2 or a third, check out my episode 61 on how to get a graduate job with a 2.2 or third class degree. The final pro point of applying in your third year is that you really might just want to start work as soon as you graduate. If that is the case, then make sure you get your application in your final year. As I mentioned, get it in early. You can only apply once each year to each company, so don't miss the boat. So there you go, a few pros and cons of when to start applying for graduate jobs. Although, let me hedge my bets with a couple of caveats here. The first is that either way, if you do wait until after you graduate, it is still crucial to take advantage of the opportunities for networking and developing your skills in your final year at university. By this, I mean identifying the companies, industries that you're interested in, and then making sure that you go to any careers fairs that they're going to be going on at campus or in your city. Make sure you are chatting to the respective companies at each fair, chatting to the graduates, asking them what they like, dislike, struggled with, wish they had known, found hard about the application process, any advice that they have for applicants, etc. Pick their brains and try and get a picture of the firm to see if it's going to be the best place for you. Make sure you're making best use of your university career service. Go to any events run by any firm where they run a mock interview skills, mock assessment centres, application help, etc. Even if it's in a field you're not interested in, the skills are still going to be relevant and useful. Make sure you leave university having done something extracurricular other than getting drunk at a student union on a Wednesday. Try and make sure you've done some volunteering, ran or taken part in a university society, done something for charity, taken leadership role in something within your academic department. The list is endless. It all adds up to things you can talk about in your application for a graduate job. You're going to face lots of competency questions along the way. Tell me about a time when you worked in a team, etc., etc. If you have more responses than the average answer of, I did a university group project, you're going to stand out from the crowd. And my final point today is watch out for peer pressure and your mental health. Now, you might have friends who, despite the final year workload, are applying for every graduate job that is open. And it's really easy to feel that you need to be keeping up with them, that you're missing the boat, that you're missing out, and that you need to be applying as well. As I said right at the beginning, final year is a stressful time. Do what is right for you. Not your parents, not your mates, you. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. And rest assured, there will always be jobs. Graduate schemes will always be looking for brilliant candidates. So do what is right for you and nobody else. And don't forget, I'm here to help and guide you through the application process, no matter when you apply. So that is it for today. As a reminder, show notes are at graduatejobpodcast.com/when. While you're there, go to graduatejobpodcast.com/course to sign up to hear about my step-by-step guide to getting a graduate job. It will change your life. Join me next Tuesday when I am joined on the show by DS Smith, one of the biggest UK companies I bet you've not even heard of, who have 3 brilliant graduate schemes, including one where you spend a year in 3 different countries across Europe as part of your training. It's a goodie. I hope you enjoyed the episode today, but more importantly, I hope you use it and apply it. See you next week.